Hi everyone, it's Monday, April 13th, and you're here with me in my home science lab, and I would like to talk to you about bulbs. So bulbs are part of a plant, part of angiosperms, flowering plants. Not all plants have bulbs, but many plants that are familiar to us do. So let's make some connections. Last time we got together, we were talking about the anatomy of a daffodil flower. Daffodils are one of the types of flowers we love that come from bulbs. So do tulips. So tulips and daffodils are bulb plants that maybe are around you in your home right now and certainly grow at Randolph. You also might have some bulbs inside your house, in your kitchen. There's a couple of bulbs very familiar to us for cooking purposes. So this is an onion, that's right, and this is garlic. So garlic and onions are also bulbs that we're familiar with in our world. So one more kind of bulb that all my Randolph friends from this year will probably recognize is a Narcissist bulb. This is the bulb that we gave you at the piñata party to grow at home. This is the one that we already grew and it's finished for the year. So you'll see it's kind of starting to fade and rot. So what we need to do now is learn the names of the parts of a bulb and what they do. And we're going to learn that by starting from the outside and then looking inside. So, whoopsie. Hey, that actually makes this easier. Okay, so all bulbs start on the outside with a thin, papery layer called the tunic. So here's it still on the onion. Here's where I just accidentally knocked it off. So all bulbs have some version of this kind of skinny, thinny layer on the outside called a tunic. Its job is to protect the bulb and keep it from drying out. Okay, so looking inside the tunic, you'll find the rest of the bulb. The next layers in from the tunic are these big, fleshy, moist layers, and they are each called scales. These are the scales. A bulb is made up mostly of its scales. So you can see on this onion we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scale layers just on this side, and more on this side. The amazing thing about scales is that they are actually leaves, but they're a specialized kind of leaf, so they're called modified leaves. You'll notice they're not green. They don't ever come out of the earth and up into the sunlight to make energy the way most leaves do. They stay underground, and what they do is they store energy. So energy that's made by the leaves is stored in here to help the bulb grow in spring. So all bulbs are made up mostly of their scales. They have a tunic on the outside, and then they have the bulb scales, which are actually, that's right, leaves for storing energy. And then in the center of a bulb, this one actually has two, is the real business of the bulb, and this is called the chute. So the chute is what the whole rest of the bulb nourishes and protects. The chute is where growth is going to happen. So in this chute are leaf buds and flower buds that when this bulb is ready to grow are going to punch up through the bulb, out of the soil, into the air, and do all the growing. So we have the tunic, the scales, the chute, which has the flower and leaf buds in it. Now, the chute and the scales are linked together by this it's kind of hard to see here, but this very important little, kind of like a ring, like an oval down at the bottom, and that is called the basal disc. The basal disc is actually the stem. It's the whole stem of this plant, and its job is to link together to connect the scales and the chute. And one more very important part of all bulbs, what do all plants have coming out of the bottom to stick into the soil and absorb water and nutrients? That's right, roots. So once again, this bulb is done for the year, so these roots are kind of dried up and dead. And these ones were probably cut off before it went to the grocery store. But all bulbs have, out of the bottom of their basal plate, roots coming out. So you have this basal plate which connects the roots, the shoot, and the scales, and those are the main parts of a bulb. The roots do the same thing that they do in all plants. The stem connects it all together. The shoot is where the flower and leaves can grow from. The scales are what store up the energy for this to grow before it has leaves. And the tunic on the outside protects it. So I also sliced open the Narcissist bulb that we had grown this year that was finished. So in this one, you don't see the shoot down in here anymore because it grew. It already grew. This would be, if this was still alive, it would be developing a new shoot for next year. But you can see the basal disc and the roots and the scales coming off the side. And this one had the shoot already coming out. So all bulbs have those same parts. Now, we're going to look on the chart down here. And we're going to look at these words one at a time in case you want to write them down yourself. So the whole thing is called a bulb. The thin, papery, protective layer on the outside that keeps it moist is called a tunic. All the layers that are nested together inside the bulb that make up most of the bulb are called the scales, and those are actually, that's right, leaves, modified leaves. The thing that kind of looks like a green bud in the center where the leaves and flower grow are the chute, and the little disc in the bottom that connects it all together, which is actually a stem, is called the basal plate. I wrote the word stem too. Those mean the same thing, but I want you to know that the basal plate is actually a kind of stem. And then just like all plants, it has roots going out in the bottom. Oh, I forgot about this very cute, interesting word, a bulbel. So come back up here to my specimens table for a minute. So when bulbs are doing really well and they're storing up a lot of energy, sometimes the main bulb starts to form a new, kind of like a little mini bulb coming off the side. It's like an extra backup strategy. And that little thing is called a bulbel. It's a little bulb that is starting to form because this bulb was so healthy that it had enough extra energy to start making a new mini bulb. So a bulbel will start to have in it all the same parts that a big bulb has. All right, so there's your bulb vocabulary. And one more thing. In the woods behind our house, we're lucky enough to have these wild plants called ramps that are delicious and edible that also come from a bulb. And at Randolph School, at the creek, there are some beautiful rare native plants right now that are growing from bulbs, like bloodroot and trout lily. So bulbs are all around us, especially in the spring, and they're in your kitchen, and they're at the creek. And just like with everything else in science, one of the ways that I love to learn about things and remember what I learned is through nature journaling, science journaling. So I have here a drawing I made of a bulb after dissecting. And I'm going to say goodbye now, but I sure hope that you might be interested in spending some time finding bulbs in the world around you, looking at them, dissecting them with the help of a grown-up, maybe when you're getting ready to cook, seeing if you can find more information on the computer, and maybe spending some time learning these cool science words and writing down some of what you observe and knowledge in your science journal. So that's it on bulbs for now, and until we meet again, keep sciencing.